Guitarristas, ya sabéis que aquí tenemos mucha suerte porque siempre tenemos unos invitados tremendos. Y hoy tenemos de invitado al guitarrista de Rammstein, Richard Z Kruspe, que viene hoy a hablarnos, por supuesto, de Rammstein, pero muy en especial de su última guitarra signature, la ESP y ESP LTD RZK-III. Es una entrevista de audio, no de vídeo, pero aún así podréis oír la viva voz de Richard contestando a nuestras preguntas. Que lo disfrutéis. First, thank you so much. We're so honored to have you in our channel.
Oh, I'm humbled. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I've seen you live many times because I've been a fan since I was around 13. And of course, I saw you the last time in Spain. It was raining super heavily.
Right.
Yeah, and as if a Rammstein show wasn't dangerous enough with all the fire and stuff, how do you guys handle the risk of electric shock and that kind of things?
Oh, well, it's rain comes with a certain kind of price. You have to pay the toll for that. It has, let me start with the positive effect. It brings something that normally shows doesn't bring. You're a little bit out of control. It does certain things which is more improvised in a certain way. Just for like playing things, it doesn't do so well, especially if you're playing on guitar, because you get very slippery and it's a little loose while you're playing with rain. So, but also it brings something that is what I like about the rain. It brings something that um, a little bit loose of control. It has a certain kind of spontaneous things. You do certain things which you wouldn't do without the rain. So I think we had it like over the last two twice, with rain, which in the beginning you always hate it, but then after a while you start to loving it. And we never had any technical problems while like you get like electrified or something, and even if you would do it will bring something good out of it, I guess. But it I had like certain shows when it was raining that felt like, fuck, man, this is like you don't care so much anymore by being so precise and being so German, so to say. It has a random effect on you, which is sometimes can be very lovable. And yeah, I like it. Not all the time, but sometimes it brings a different aspect inside the show. So, I always feel more for the people out there, like being in the rain and being cold and stuff like that, than for myself. That's why I always say, listen, I don't want to have her umbrella or something because it sounds looks so stupid. You try to protect as well, which on one hand, when you all only consider playing, it would be better. But, in that moment, who gives a fuck? Just be part of everyone else.
Yes, certainly it was cold, but whenever with the places of fire, you get warm a little bit too.
Exactly, you have a little bit of warmth, that can fire has not even a visual effect, also has like actually an analog effect to it.
Absolutely. I believe the Rammstein is now using like 100 trucks. I think I saw that in a documentary. 100 trucks to move all the stage. Is it true?
That's true.
Wow, it's amazing. But what was the vehicle that you started using during Herzeleid era?
I think I was thinking about it the other day. I mean, probably it was one truck that we started with, and then moved over the years to over 100. I mean, also you have to calculate that we played much smaller venues then. Obviously, there's a big difference in playing of 60 or 80,000 in front of like 2,000. Obviously, you need more stuff to it, more light and more um, other stuff to it. So it was growing over the years. We also were a band in the beginning that hadn't the pleasure to play it on radios. Some reason we were kind of banned on a lot of radio station. People wouldn't really play us on radio, so we had to invest in other things, which was our live show. So we were like, okay, people are not listening to our like our music on radio, so we have to give him something else. So our investment was basically more into the live shows. That's why, it became bigger and bigger.
And also I read that at the beginning you didn't have a pyro expert amongst your team, so
No.
it looks like it was you and some gasoline.
Well, basically, it was, I think the only guy that had her permission was Till, in the beginning, because he was the one that used a lot of pyro effects in the beginning anyway. So, and we had like some small accidents, where we realized, we can't be able to prepare because also was a lot of preparation before shows, and also liabilities, where when there were accidents we didn't have insurance and stuff like that. So we needed to change. We had like one accident, like I think it was a show in Berlin where the backdraft fell down into the people, and luckily there weren't so much I think there was like one person was in the hospital, but there was not so much harm. So we had to change certain things where give it to into other hands. They were dealing with that more in a professional way.
Did Till have that permit because of a previous job or something like that?
No, no, no. He was doing it like in the beginning. We knew that he had to be a pyrotechnic, or he needed like an application for or a degree for being a pyrotechnic while he was using certain things on stage.
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand. Okay, okay. As I said before, I discovered Rammstein about 13, when I was about 13, and Sehnsucht was on the street, and it looked like such a long time to wait for the next album, which was Mutter. And I noticed how much it changed because everything was bigger, sounded better, guitars were more organic, and more videos, more everything. How did you leave that inside of the band?
Well, I think like in general, like, when you start with a band, you're a baby. You don't really understand a lot of things, even like production in the studios, you're relying on other people. And then where you like grow up and like move along and, have experience being in the studios and be more confident about certain things are changing. Also, there are songwriting has changed. Um, I think like studios has changed. I mean, there's a lot of parameters which have changed that brought us to a certain kind of aspects of sounding records. I think that with Mother, I was on the peak of like doubling myself 24 times
Wow.
sometimes.
Wow.
And like and I was like just so into playing guitars that nobody could stop me, which was probably a lot annoying of other people.
Wow.
But we wanted to have that wall of guitars, and I was like, oh, let's try this harmony, let's try this octave, like double, double, double. And that was the sound that in Mother came. I was a little different because in Sehnsucht it was more electronic industrial. The sound was so different, Also, depends what you were listening at that time. I think when we recorded Mother, I was more listening to old analog bands like Zeppelin, AC/DC, and stuff like that than like in Sehnsucht, where it was more electro based, I think. But it's normal that you change things while you're doing things. Every record is different because first of all you grow older, the songwriting is different, or studio sounds different. I mean, and that's what it is, I mean, what's supposed to sound like different. I think everyone would get bored, and everyone that like listened to those records has, certain kind of favorite, one like the Mother more, which I prefer, like, and somebody like the way that we did Insane, which is it's normal.
Yeah, they both are great. I sometimes I'm in the mood of Sehnsucht, and other times it's Mutter. They're both awesome. So speaking of guitar sound, I believe you love gear a lot because I always see you trying new things and plugins and stuff. Hey, you just released a new LTD guitar. What can you tell us about this new design?
In 2021, I did a video for my solo project Emigrate, and I was trying to use a different guitar for just for visuals, and Stefan from sound design, he gave me the Phoenix guitar from ESP, which has like the old Gibson Firebird like body. And I think it was the first time I I tried the guitar while I was playing live rather than playing and sitting. It was a different way approaching a guitar. And I wasn't really aware that it was so much fun to have that kind of body playing. And I had something very rough. And I felt like the way the body was and the corpus, I felt like this is a new way of playing. It's like, it's like if you kiss someone, the kiss is always a kiss. But if you kiss with a different person, it always feels different. And that's like with the guitar as well, you know? The guitar, every shape brings a different feeling and has a different connection with you. And at that point, when I played that video, I felt like, wow, it's a guitar, or the body feels like I want to just fully, roughly, play a certain kind of riffs. So there was the idea of creating a new or signature guitar. And then, of course, it takes a while. I mean, right now we're 25, so 4 years. Um, we had to. I wanted to bring certain kind of aspects into the guitar. There is like, first of all, it was complicated because I was so used to play on the Floyd Rose, and that affected the distance between the strings and the neck. When the first thing what I did was like, okay, I want to try three different bridges. I was like their Floyd Rose, then there was their stop tail piece and their neck through body, and also it takes a long time to build those prototypes. So they were building those prototypes, and I did like a sound shoot basically, and I didn't really. I was more listening to the sound and the way that I felt comfortable with playing. So the stop tail piece won in the sound quality. So now my problem was that guitar had a certain kind of bending on the neck that didn't feel so much comfortable because I was so used to play on a Floyd Rose. So and then we tried different things, and that's why we did the recessed bridge to basically have, how do you say, have the neck quite straight with a little bit of a U bending, but still have the sound of their stop tail piece. And there was like an errand trying, which I did here in Berlin with a good friend of mine, a guitar builder from Berlin. And that's why we reseat their bridge into the body to bring the comfortable position of the Floyd Rose back with the sound of the stop tail piece. So there was like almost like a half year of like a trying and error kind of thing. And then after I felt comfortable, and I also felt like the sound wouldn't change that much. We built like, my favorite thing, which is the kill switch in both direction. The kill switch, as we know, came from their Gibson guitar with the pody, like on off. But I always felt the usual way of the kill switch would work, where you basically have the sound first and you kill the sound in between. So it's a different way of playing. The American way is basically you always have the sound first and then you kill the sound after. Where my version, or the other version that I call the German kill switch, is basically you basically push the sound in and silence basically after that, which is a
So,
different reason. If and it's hard to explain. It's kind of, you have to kind of play it to understand what I mean.
okay.
Like, because I'm very based on German rhythm, which is everything is based on one. So my way of using the kiss, which is always on the one, like I go where the American way is always in between. It's just a different concept. So I was always thinking of putting that way. And yeah, so that's why that's why the RZK-III came out, because I loved it playing live with it. And I also played on the last tour with it, and it was very a lot of fun playing this guitar on stage. Also, like in the past, I wasn't really a fan of building another LTD version of my ESP, but now, because of the expansion, like how much an ESP guitar costs, I said, like, listen, this is like too much. I need the guitar to be like people can also afford to buying it, you know. And that's why uh, I I had the need of also build like an LTD version for that, an affordable version for people that can play the guitar. Because I still believe, that I mean, the ESP version is very individual. There's certain things that are not there on the LTD version, but it's a guitar. It's a lot of fun to play.
That's understandable. And also, you were a ESP user from the very beginning. I remember seeing you in Live Berlin already with lots of ESPs.
Yes, I mean, one of the I don't remember what time it was. Probably it was like 90, oh God, like 93 or something, where it was the first time I was the first time and the last time I was in the music convention in Frankfurt, and I saw a guitar hanging on the ESP booth, which was was a 901, I think that was the guitar called. And that was the first guitar I bought for like a lot of money, and I mean, at that time anyway. So, and yeah, then I stayed with them for a lot of reasons. I'm a very loyal guy.
I've seen you with many models like Kirk Hammett and lots of stuff, so it's easy to notice that you love them.
Well, the first, like after that, obviously you were a small band, and the reason why I went to the KH, the Kirk Hammett model, was because of their Floyd Rose, because I felt always like, especially in those days, that the Floyd Rose gave me a faster attack for certain kind of riffs than like your stop tail piece, for example. So it was not really it was not a decision where I felt like I loved the design. It was more like a sound decision, so to say. And then after a while, I mean, if you get bigger, and then I was able to create my own signature, which was RZK-1, 2, and then now it's the 3.
Absolutely great. And also, I wanted to ask you, who was your guitar or vocal or keyboard or synth hero when you were a teenager?
Yeah. Well, my absolutely favorite one vocal singer was Bon Scott. There was like I grew up with AC/DC. It was a big part of my life. Guitar wise, I would say in that point, like, like definitely also Malcolm Young. I had the ability to see him live on stage, and I was like so mesmerized how perfect he played. And I know I always fuck up at least one or twice at the show. I know it's like, for me, it's very hard to be that consistent, but this guy was a machine. I mean, it's unbelievable. Also, like, to have to mention Jimmy Page was also like one influence, like, the way that he created sounds, you know, like, especially with Led Zeppelin, it was something that I felt like, wow, it's, very interesting. So those two players, I would say.
Wow. I'm surprised because Rammstein is like a lot of steps heavier than that.
Sure, but the way, I mean, obviously, the way that first of all, the way that I grew up with them, in the beginning, and then after it changed. For example, one guitar player I also really liked, but it became later was what's his name? The guy from Fate No More, the first guitar player.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Jim,
Yeah.
Jim Martin. Jim Martin, So the way that he played was also something that I felt like, I think that was the Real Thing record that came out with Fate No More, that like I was like, wow, that's also a very unique guitar sound he had. But I mean, I like guitar players more in the unique way. It doesn't have to be heavy. But like there's people like for example John Frusciante. I'm like, wow, it's just the way how his simplicity, but he doesn't have to be fast. You know, he can do it, but he doesn't have to. So there was like the simplicity in the play, and that you have also with Malcolm Young and Jimmy Page. I'm not so into those fast players, you know, like Alder, Ingli, Malmsteen, Satriani, or Steve Vai. It's okay, but that's sport for me. Like almost like, you know, it doesn't really transport a certain emotion inside of me. So like those players that I mentioned, they don't have to do it. They still touch you, you know. So that's the way I feel and I hear music.
True. And in terms of gear preferences, how different is Paul from you?
Well, very different. Yeah, we're very opposite, which is sometimes very hard to manage. But what we did, like at least the first 5 records, which the help of our producers, we basically created a sound that was one sound rather than having two sounds. So we used like 80% of our boogie rectifier and 20% of the sensor. We mixed them together, and then we both played left and right. So for me, it was always important to actually have the stereo signal of the guitar left and right the same, because we also played the riffs in the same way. It wasn't like that we played it differently like Angels and Malcolm, you know? So we basically left and right was always the same sound wise and the way we played. So when we were in the studio, you know, everyone had one sound to play. It wasn't like that I was playing the rectifier and he was playing the sensor. We basically managed that we would play both sounds, which again, like for me, it was important that left and right was the same way. But we're very different.
And I think you mentioned that you play literally the same way. I mean, pick down is pick down for the both of you. Pick up is the same for the both of you. Stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, that's interesting. I think you can tell in the albums how compact and how solid it is because of that, yeah. Now I'm gonna mention couples of riffs. You have to tell me very quick, just one of them, okay?
Okay.
Sehnsucht or Sonne?
Oof. Oof. That's almost an equal one, I would say. I really like. It's hard to say. It really depends on the day. Uh, I would. It's, Saints is more unique. Sonne is more fun to play, so I would go for Sonne.
Sonne, okay. Sonne or keine Lust?
Sonne.
Sonne or Engel?
Sonne.
Sonne or Asche zu Asche?
Sonne.
Sonne or mein Teil?
Sonne.
Sonne or Zigzag?
Sonne.
Sonne or Ich will?
Ich will is a very, very interesting, simple riff. Ich will.
Ich will. Ich will or Deutschland?
Deutschland.
Deutschland. Deutschland or Du hast?
Du hast.
The last one. Du hast or wollt ihr das Bett in Flammen sehen?
Du hast.
Du hast. So Du hast. Guys, it's Du hast for Richard. Okay. How do you start a new demo for a song in Rammstein? Would you do it the same way if it was for Emigrate?
I used to approach it in a different way because my songwriting was different, but nowadays I just write music, ideas, songs, and the approach is pretty much the same. And every time I thought that would be only for Emigrate, and I would play the guys certain kind of ideas. You know, sometimes Till would pick an Emigrate idea rather than a Rammstein idea. So I stopped doing that. So my approach is basically the same at the time, you know, and at the moment. I have like ideas and 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 it's always different with both projects, you know. Even if I have an idea, you know, when it comes then to the end of a song in the studio, it will be changed in that environment by the people, you know, by the singer, obviously. So it will turn out always in a different way anyway. So at the moment, the approach to write a song is pretty much the same.
Okay, and I'm sure you'll get this many times, but how does one come with such a success in having the same 6 people together for so many years?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have two things that are the most important is loyalty and communication.
Thank you, Richard. It was such a great pleasure for guitarristas.info in Spain having you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. And yeah, let's talk soon, okay?
Okay, see you soon. Thanks again.
All right, bye.
Bye bye.